Hi, it's Nick from the Run Testers, and this is our multi-tester review of the Hoka Rocket X. Start with the key stats of the shoe, and with the stack, which is 30mm at the heel and 25 at the toe, giving it a 5mm drop. It's a pretty light shoe. It weighs 217 grams or 7.6 ounces in my UK size 9, and it's also a relatively cheap shoe for a carbon-plated kind of super shoe. It's £140 in the UK and $180 in the US. In the UK at least, that comes in a fair bit cheaper than pretty much all the top-flight carbon shoes from other brands. So the design of the shoe, we'll start with the upper, which is a lightweight, breathable mesh, pretty standard stuff. There's not a lot of structure on it, but I found that it held the foot pretty securely and snugly, even on fast runs. Tongue is a trifle short, not really sure why, and in contrast, the laces are incredibly long. Hoka obviously had extra laces material they needed to get rid of. The material in the midsole is an EVA, and it's single density EVA. Some of Hoka's Pro Fly shoes have a dual density, which is a bit softer at the front and firmer at which is a bit softer at the back and then a bit firmer at the front. This is a single density. In there, you're going to have a 1mm carbon plate, which is obviously now standard in top class racing shoes. And on the outsole, you have, it's kind of rubberized generally, the outsole, and there's a few extra patches around kind of key impact zones around the heel and the forefoot. I am 115k into this, and really I've been pretty impressed how this has held up. I've not had any problems with grip, and it's also doesn't look like it's showing any signs of wear and tear, either at kind of the heel or the forefoot sections, or even actually in the kind of more exposed kind of rubberized foam in the middle here.
The fit for me was absolutely fine. This is a size 8. However, I would say that I don't have particularly wide feet, but I did think that this shoe was probably a little bit narrower than most of the shoes that I wear. So if you do have wide feet, probably worth taking that into account. Other than that, fits very comfortably, it feels very secure, and I had no issues at all with it.
Now, in terms of the fit for me, initially kind of, when I've kind of laced up, I've kind of felt a little bit of pressing on one side of my foot, but actually when I've got out there, it's not really been an issue for me. It's not something I've noticed during the runs or when I finish my runs. It's a narrow shoe. This is an 8. I maybe could have gone up to an 8.5, I think, potentially, so maybe half a size. There was enough space kind of up front in the toe box. Like I said, it didn't give me any kind of discomfort during my runs, just that kind of initial kind of lacing up and kind of feeling that little bit of pressure on the side, but didn't amount to anything.
When it came to the fit, I actually half-sized up in these. I'm normally a UK 8.5, but I went for a 9. That was just from experience of actually using the Carbon X, which also on me came up a little bit small. So I went half a size up, and then these were a perfect fit. Plenty of room across the midfoot for me, which I've got big wide feet. That was great, and actually still got good lockdown, no movement. So half a size up worked perfectly for me.
So I went true to size with the Rocket X, and it fits really well for me. It's quite comfortable.
So the Hoka Rocket X, well, I have put in just about 50 miles in these shoes. I've done a mixture of kind of treadmill runs, interval treadmill runs on the Peloton tread. I've also done some kind of light kind of park path, sort of forest path trails, which I know they're not designed for, but interestingly, they kind of cope quite nicely. And also I have done some road running. I've done 2 half marathons in them, mainly kind of over tarmac. Now, my feelings about these shoes are that I'm really surprised how much I really like them, particularly over those sort of longer distances, and particularly as sort of a general everyday shoe, actually. I thought these were going to be the kind of shoe that I'd only really want to put on to go fast and to race in. But I have enjoyed these immensely, actually. From the moment I put them on, really comfortable uppers, which I believe you're starting to feel from Hoka now more regularly on their shoes. You put them in and that kind of first feel is immense. Also underfoot, actually, they are not, for me, kind of as aggressive and as propulsive and as, as fierce as some of the things like an Alpha Fly. But on the flip side to that, I've felt very natural when I've run in these. They've taken to my kind of natural running style. I feel there's a good ground contact. I feel there's a sort of slight firmness there, but a decent response that, I sort of spoke to the other boys before we went on to do the test for this video, whether or not we want to run in these sort of every day as a train or actually run long distances in them. And I will say it right now, I would happily race a marathon in these. I actually feel like they would perform really well over a marathon. I'd be very interested to chase PBs in them. I actually feel like I'd be more comfortable in these maybe in something like a Nike Alpha Fly. I'm not saying they are as responsive and they will give you the as much of a boost, but for me personally, I just love the way they run. They feel very natural underfoot. I've got good ground contact. I think there's plenty protection from the cushioning here. I don't think the carbon plate there is over-tooled. I don't think it's sort of, some of the shoes you're very aware of them, but I really like these. The other thing to say, they're super lightweight. I think they are, there's enough comfort here around the heel collar that makes them sort of a nice sort of comfortable ride to run in over long distances. I enjoyed the kind of slightly stitched in sort of tongue down the side here. That gave me sort of decent feel on the fit. The lacing down for me is ample. There's a lot of lace here, which I think is a real bonus. Some shoes I've got have come up short on the laces. Those uppers are breathable. I mean, as you can see, I've actually put them through their paces in a lot of muddy runs. Overall, I'm really happy with the way these have held up. I do think that even though I have gone off-road as well in some places, I think the durability of the outsole seems to me to be up there. I mean, particularly with some of the other shoes that aren't really known for their durability. These have handled gravel paths really well as well, which is another bonus for the Rocket X. So my take basically on the run of these is you're going to get a good solid performance from these, a little bit of a boost, but not over pronounced. I do feel like you could run a marathon in these or race a marathon in these. I do that they're made actually really nicely for a half marathon racing distance. I would also happily go out and do my training miles in these, and I feel like they'll last the distance in terms of durability too. So for me, it's a real thumbs up from the Rocket X.
So I haven't actually had too many other shoes to review lately, so I've had a good chance to put a lot of miles into the Hoka Rocket X. I've done about 115k in it across a really good range of different runs, some easy stuff, 3 kind of good quality speed sessions of different lengths, a couple of tempo 10Ks, and then one kind of longer run, a kind of steady half marathon. And I've been really, broadly speaking, very impressed with the shoe, I have to say. It's light and even runs even lighter than it is. The kind of rocker you get in kind of all of Hoka's shoes does, when you sometimes feel, when everything's going really well, it does almost feel like you're kind of you're just kissing the ground as you run. You're kind of almost just skipping off it, gaining speed of every step. Which obviously isn't true, but that's how it feels. It's already quite a lightweight shoe. I think it runs even lighter than its weight, but it is quite comfy as well. I'd say this midsole density, this kind of firmness, it's definitely softer for me than the Carbon X. I haven't tried the X2, but it's a kind of softer, slightly more super shoey ride than the Carbon X, and I definitely think this shoe would be comfortable enough to push over longer distances like the marathon. Hoka's kind of pitched this more as a kind of short distance racer, but actually on the half I rolled through pretty comfortably in around, I think, 124, and I really didn't have any harshness or firmness on the ride at all. I thought after about 10 miles maybe this would start to wear on my feet a bit at all, but no, not at all. I think this would be a great racer for half marathons and marathons. All out speed, it's got it. It's definitely got it. I've had good and bad sessions in this shoe, which I think is always good to give you a true reflection of it. If you just had good sessions all the time, you just think it was an amazing shoe. I did a 10 times 1k session at the track, alternating 3:30 and 3:10 pace for those Ks. And I was really amazed actually at how this held up on the really fast stuff. That 3:10 is about my 5k pace, knocking out a lot of those reps, and I felt really comfortable, and my legs weren't knackered at the end of that session after what is quite a long session for the track for me. So yeah, that was one of the first runs I did in the shoe, and I was very impressed with it, I have to say. And this week I've had a couple of worse sessions. I did a kind of fartlek 3-2-1 times 5, 3-2-1 minutes on 5 sets of that, and then I did a progression hour, finishing with about 20 minutes. That was meant to be about 3:25 per k pace. I couldn't hold it. I wasn't having a great day, but I still felt I held a reasonably good pace in this shoe, and I don't think it holds you back on any of those sessions. It's definitely quick enough for kind of really all-out, shorter speed work, while still being kind of comfortable and cushioned enough that you can use it for your longer speed sessions as well, and maybe kind of long runs where you're going to do some spells at race pace, that kind of thing. The only thing I will say about the ride is I don't think you get the same level of protection and kind of rebound and kind of efficiency gains that you get from some of the really top class super shoes out there, like the Vaporfly, like New Balance Fuel Cell Elite, the Endorphin Pro. I think all those shoes are giving you a little bit more, especially over longer races where you're going to feel fresher, stronger at the end of those kind of hard runs, and maybe able to push a little bit harder at the end as a result. So I think that's probably the only one real area it fell down for me was that. Other than that, I think it's been a great shoe for pretty much every kind of run I've done in it. It's not, a brilliant easy day shoe, but it is still quite comfortable. I didn't have any problems like doing kind of hour easy plods in this shoe. But it's obviously best saved for kind of speed work and then really races.
When it comes to actually road testing, I really enjoyed the Rocket X shoe. It's a really lightweight, fast shoe that I kind of noticed as soon as I started wearing it. I felt that I was going at quite a nice pace. The turnover was really nice. The first time I went out in there, I thought I was running slower than I actually was. It just felt so nice and kind of lightweight and bouncy whilst I was in it. It's definitely a shoe that's designed for speed, although I have found it's also quite versatile. So I've used this for between about 7k runs and up to about 14k in this so far. And some of those runs were a slower training pace, and some of them I was going quite fast and trying to pick up the pace quite heavily. In the faster runs, it delivers really well. It is a very nice, fast shoe. It's not as fast as something like the Nike Vaporfly, but for the price, that's £140 compared to £250. It's a very good value option that is really conducive to running quickly. The bounce that you get off the carbon plate and the midsole, it's not as noticeable as you get in a lot of other carbon shoes, but it's there, and you can feel yourself propelling forward quite nicely as you run. I've ran in the Carbon X, the first one, quite a lot over the past year, and it does feel quite different than that shoe. It feels quicker than that shoe. It feels more designed for racing, and I actually enjoy this shoe a lot more than the original Carbon X shoe. It felt nice and secure from the first time I ran in it, so it was a very comfortable experience straight away. There wasn't any sort of rigidity to the upper as I was running, and yeah, overall I just really enjoy this shoe. I think it's a great option at a great price. I definitely feel that it's a shoe probably better designed for shorter distances as opposed to marathons. So I've only got to about 15k in it so far, but I think it probably worked really well up to about half marathon. I don't think I'd want to do a marathon in this shoe. It just feels like it doesn't have the cushioning or the softness that I'd want over that distance, but I definitely use this shoe for 10Ks, half marathons. I think it worked really well for those distances.
One thing I will add, just because I tested them that way, I did a couple of interval sessions on the Peloton tread, and I wasn't really feeling it. These shoes didn't really perform well. They weren't very comfortable to run on the treadmill, but I think it's a very specific thing to ask them to do. These are made for kind of outdoors.
So in terms of running performance, I've done over 50 miles on these now. I've had them for quite a while. That's come from a mixture of runs, so just going out to do some 5k and 10k runs, doing some interval stuff on the track when it's been open, on the road as well, some kind of longer, steadier runs, and I've also tried to do some kind of time trial style runs to kind of replicate running in race pace in these. And what I found from the very first run, which was just going out and do a 5k, then basically I really enjoyed running in this. It's weird, it's kind of like, unlike something like the Meta Racer, you don't get this explosive feeling underfoot, but you do run, you can run really quickly. It's kind of almost deceptively kind of quick in these. It's almost like you're not in a carbon plate shoe at all, really. I think that's testament to the design. It's a really light shoe to run in. Really kind of feels great to run those quicker speeds, responsive. The midsole, I think was soft enough for me. There's a little bit of firmness, but not in a really kind of uncomfortable way. Just enough to give you that good feeling underfoot. So yeah, I definitely think the quicker stuff is where it excelled for me. I do think it could work on those longer miles, and I think I realised that the more miles I put into these, that you can probably turn to those longer training runs as well, which should mean actually could work for kind of longer race distances as well. But overall, yeah, I really like running in this shoe. I think worth mentioning, now obviously there's a lot being made about the improved kind of traction, and the outside you've got a bit more going up on up front and around the back of the heel. I found generally grip was okay and kind of drier surfaces. Now there'll be times when I encountered kind of muddy or wet leaves, and I did slip around a little bit in these, so not perfect. But if you're on dry, kind of on a track, on a dry kind of long stretches of roads, the Rocket X kind of will do the job. Durability wise, obviously this is one that Hoka thinks will kind of go the distance. I'm not sure if you want to be running all of your miles in these, but so far it's held up, apart from the mud I've got on the sides. But yeah, overall running performance really strong. Really impressed. Not one to run slow miles in, but if you're turning to it for the quicker stuff, and actually for those longer miles as well, this is kind of one that I've really found has impressed running performance wise.
Another thing I wanted to say actually, although they work best when you're running at faster paces, I actually, in the half marathons I did, it was a real mixed bag because I'm not that fit. Some of it towards the end I ran a little bit sloppily, and they were kind of happy as well at slower paces as well. That's not true of all carbon shoes. So they did sort of take, an 8.5 minute mile for me when I would normally be running, sevens as my sort of 6.5, 7s as my fast pace. So that's all good.
I think the first thing to say about the Rocket X is it's really good value for what is kind of Hoka's new top super shoe. £140, it's still a fair chunk of change, but that actually puts it cheaper than a lot of brands' training partner shoes like the Endorphin Speed and the Nike Tempo Next Percent. Most carbon plate super shoes are £170 and up, and this is coming in significantly cheaper and is always available, which is a slightly different experience for most carbon shoes. So that's a big tick in the Rocket X's book. And it's really not offering a significantly lower level of performance than some of those really high-end shoes. I do think you are going to get better race day performance from the Nikes, the Vaporfly and the Alphafly, Saucony, the Adidas, New Balance, even kind of the Brooks up here. I think those are all really good carbon shoes that I do think have a little bit more in terms of how much they protect your legs, so you can finish stronger in hard sessions and races. However, I think the Hoka is better than some of the best carbon shoes from other brands, like the Meta Racer, On's carbon shoe. I think I prefer this to those. And I think, given the price, you actually can put it up against things like the Endorphin Speed and the Tempo Next Percent as a kind of trainer racer, really. You can use this for a lot of your workouts. It's a comfortable shoe. You can use it for your speed sessions, your tempo runs, hard long runs when you're going to do sections at race pace. It's a perfect option for that. And I think the only shoe that really kind of beats out on those kind of things is probably the Endorphin Speed. I still think that's a truly fantastic shoe that I would probably still edge just out. I think I prefer the feel of the kind of combination of Saucony's Power Run PB foam and that nylon plate. Really makes for a slightly more protective, cushioned, springy ride. But the Rocket X is right up there, and it's even a little bit cheaper than the Endorphin Speed. I've also not seen a huge amount of wear and tear after 115 kilometers. So again, that hopefully will add to its value as well. So yeah, if you're looking for one shoe, fast trainer, your racer, you want that carbon plate in there, you don't really want to spend £200, the Rocket X is a really exciting new model to have on the market, especially as it is always in stock, as far as I can tell.
Okay, so my verdict on the Rocket X. Now, if you look at where it's priced and kind of compared to the other performance shoes that are out there, I think this is actually a really nice option to look at. It's great on the quick stuff. That's why I've really kind of benefited from wearing the shoe. But that's not to say that it can't lend itself to those kind of longer miles as well. So it gives it more of a kind of daily trainer feel as well, which is something I wasn't really expecting. This is something Hoka kind of pitch at, something you use for on race day, but I think it can work as a training shoe as well. So yeah, that's my take on the Rocket X. Really enjoyed running in it, and it's definitely going to stick around in my collection.
My verdict for the Rocket X is a really good value shoe that over the past year we've seen an enormous number of carbon plate shoes, and the benefits of each of those shoes varies enormously. The fact that it's a carbon plate shoe is not really that important anymore. There's so many carbon plate shoes that just calling something a carbon plate shoe doesn't necessarily mean it's going to deliver the same as every other carbon plate shoe. But for £140, it's definitely one of the cheapest carbon plate shoes that you'll find, if not the cheapest. And it for that price, it does an exceptional job delivering on tempo runs and races. And if you're looking for a carbon plate option, this is brilliant, especially if you're not looking to spend £200 on some of the top end ones, because you're going to get a very similar experience with this that you will in a lot of those. And out of all of the carbon plate shoes I've tried over the past year, I wouldn't say, when compared with the Vaporfly or the Alphafly, it's not in the same league. It doesn't deliver like those shoes does. But in comparison with a lot of the other shoes like the Asics Meta Racer and things like that, I prefer this one, and they are a lot more expensive than this shoe. So if you're looking for a fast race shoe that's cost effective and you want that kind of carbon plate value from a shoe, but you don't want to spend loads of money on it, I mean, it's not the cheapest shoe in the world, but when you think about what it does and what it's up against, that £140 is really good value. I'd say it's a great option to have, and you can use it, I wouldn't say for slow training runs. I have used it for slow training runs, and it's been fine. It's not been a problem at all. It's just you're not really using it the way it should be used. But if you're looking for a tempo trainer or a race trainer, this is a great one to have in your collection. And if you even do have a Vaporfly or something like that, and you don't want to use that for training, because why would you? This is a great option to have as a tempo shoe for training at higher paces, but without spending loads of money on a carbon plate shoe that you don't really need for tempo training. So yeah, great shoe, really enjoyed it. Good work, Hoka.
And then a quick verdict from me on the Hoka Rocket X. It's a big thumbs up. I really enjoyed these shoes. I will definitely be bringing them into my rotation to be used as a good sort of fast training shoe. And when I want to go out and do some road intervals, I will be lacing these up, absolutely. And I have a feeling that actually come marathon race day, when that happens again for us, it's going to be a toss-up. I might actually put these on, go chasing PBs in them as well. So big thumbs up for me. The Rocket X are a win.
So that's it, guys. Thanks very much for watching. Do like and subscribe, ring the little bell so you get told when we're going to launch another video, and let us know in the comments if you've tried the Rocket X, how you think it compares to other super shoes, whether this is your first Hoka or if you think the brand in general is one that more people should try. Let us know in the comments, and we will see you next time. See you later.